order for July 15th. You'll call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Jones?
Here.
Waltney? Alamon? Smith? Harden?
Here.
2.
All right, so we do not have a quorum.
Real quick. We tried to find Andy and Carlos, we can't find them.
They're both out. Carlos is in Vegas,
Okay.
and Andy is not going to be here,
Oh.
and Barry is out of town.
Okay.
I did not know that. I was not notified, so
Yeah.
I apologize from my seat.
I didn't
I
know
just
that either.
didn't,
I
I
only knew
didn't
about
know
one
that. I
of them.
never got notification, so, on any of these.
Okay.
So I didn't have room
Yeah,
for,
there's nothing we can do.
nothing we can do. So, we will have to,
I understand.
adjourn, and we'll have to call a special called meeting probably next Monday, probably at 5:30 or something.
That's what we're talking about.
So,
That means we're not having the second meeting either, because Andy,
all right, so, with that, without objection, we're adjourned from finance with no business. Let's see.
all right, Jennifer's gonna.
You have Nell, Ms. Harden, and
We do, we do have a
Sharon.
quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have a quorum.
You want to chair the meeting?
Oh, we do have a quorum?
Yeah.
Well,
Counselor Nell's, Counselor
Yeah, we do.
Harden, Counselor
okay,
Jones.
I guess the question though is, can anybody talk to this item, this Andy's?
I can speak to it, at least some.
Okay, this is the
Okay.
loading.
Okay.
Does
dock.
somebody want to, do you want to chair the meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
You ready, Bo?
Yes, ma'am. You ready? Everybody ready? All right.
We're on the public section.
Public Safety Committee meeting for July 15th, 2024. Counselor Gwaltney, Wolverton, Jones.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Harden.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're Harden.
Here. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion on dispense of reading and approval of the minutes from the Public Safety Committee meeting on June 3rd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and on to old business, we have none, so we will go
We
on
had the
to.
vote.
What?
Call the vote.
Oh, I got a vote?
You didn't have the vote on that.
You just
I
have a
did?
motion.
No, you just motion and a second. So you need to call the vote.
All in
for-
favor?
Oh, all in favor, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I'm ready to go on to the next one. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to old business, we have none. On to new business, item 040724, request to consider a loading zone on St. Charles Street. Alex, could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so, what I can tell you is what Andy, asked me to put on here. I thought he was gonna be here tonight, but, basically what he was asking for is to make this block a loading zone, whiuld in effect eliminate any parking on the street right there.
Loading zone only. No.
Loading zone only,
Okay.
correct. So it would eliminate, it would keep anyone that was going to the businesses from parking on the roadway there.
From intersection of Oxmoor and
Oxmoor to
Stewart.
Stewart.
We,
And prevent
That.
those parking spaces that
So
aren't
we
really
would just put,
spaces
stripe the whole thing on that side?
Oh, God, people have been parking.
for that block, and it would
Yeah.
be but it would still be a loading zone so that the
Yeah.
businesses could get their supplies. Yeah.
And that, would that be then just to put up signage, or would it be striping too in the travel lane?
I think we'd probably put up, oh, you mean like striping across the lane?
Right, I mean, cause it would still be a travel lane primarily,
Correct,
right? And
yes.
so the loading zone signage would just be.
I think it would be the signage and
And a yellow curve.
a yellow
Yeah.
curve.
Okay,
And-
perfect.
And then
if you have yellow curb, there's no parking.
Or,
well, then we would just put up signage, and that would allow the police to come and hand out tickets if anyone's parking there.
okay.
Yeah, that's right, it wouldn't be yellow. Signage.
so that's what I'm not sure about. So you think it would just be a sign that says loading zone only and no demarcation on the road, or, okay?
Yeah, you put one at the beginning and at the end.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay, so in the sidewalk there'll be a sign, and does that mean that within that area is where the loading can happen?
Yep,
Correct.
Yes.
that's it, only within that area.
Yeah, between the signs, and
Yep.
I'll probably put one on the pole too.
Yeah, I think you'd end up with three probably.
Yeah.
You'd end up with one here, one there, and since you got a pole there, you might as well
Yeah,
stick
just
it on there
line
too.
it.
And we
I
plan
assume they
to
got no
limit,
loading zone,
like
no
have a
parking
time
between.
limit
Yep.
displayed as well.
It's gonna be a loading zone the entire time. So in other words, there wouldn't be any parking available anytime during.
Right.
But could we have a 15, I mean, I feel like, just based on what does happen there, and I don't know if Andy intended this to be a part of it. I thought we'd talk about that tonight, but, like 15-minute loading zone or 30-minute loading zone, is there any need?
What-
Does that usually happen with a loading zone only?
Are you
A
talking about
time limit for
For the
loading?
loads to
Yes.
be
Yes.
unloaded.
Yes, and I think that's what John.
So,
Yeah.
I think we would probably need to talk to the businesses over there just to make sure we're not creating something that's unachievable. And so if we wanna do that, I would say let's talk to the businesses first. If we're gonna limit the loading and unloading time to make sure that we are, I mean, my guess is no one sitting here knows what's reasonable or not for a business, for any of those businesses. I don't. So I think we probably would need to initiate that discussion if we wanted to do that, if we wanted to make
have
that
a
part
time
of the ordinance.
associated with it. What, another thing that happens on this street is that they get parked too close to the intersection. So,
They being the
the-
trucks or the,
anybody who parks on that side, trucks included, yeah. So,
Right there.
I think a part of this, I'm assuming, would it be Randy, or who would determine where and how, and we,
It would probably need to be 30 feet from the intersection.
yeah,
30 feet.
there's already,
You
30
could put
feet.
no parking 30 feet.
I mean, cause that's,
Okay.
that's already in place by ordinance,
Okay.
correct?
Well, we don't have a
Okay.
stop sign there.
Is
That's
it-
30 feet is,
It's just stop and stop sign.
From a stop sign.
well, there,
Is that on that?
no.
I guess there aren't any stop signs.
Well, this is
Right.
a very
It's a stop
updated picture.
But it's
It's a red light.
It
It's a
would
red
be,
light.
it would be great if we could either yellow up to that point. I don't know what we can do, but that
That's
is an issue just to consider, you
Sure.
know, as we're building this.
Is the
putting
bollard
this
helping?
together.
Does it help?
Look at it, it's been hit a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's protected their
Their roof.
only, if they're all.
Is that,
What I would suggest then is, now this is gonna delay it, so I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a bigger
Yeah.
deal or not.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone here, knows the measurements of that. So we can check the measurements to see how far 30 feet is in each direction and see what it leaves left. Just to make sure, again, that we're not creating more, creating more problems than we're solving.
Yeah, I feel like it'd still be good for those largest trucks.
I
just-
suspect it will too, but let's just do the measurements and make sure, is what I would say, and then we can make sure, as long as there's enough room left, then.
Kinda keep it consistent with our stop signs
Mhm.
if we do it 30 feet.
Do we think this is gonna be a problem regardless, no matter what we put there? Because I envision, the DoorDash folks and the Grubhub folks parking there with their hazards on and dashing in there and still using it to their, benefit, and there's just always gonna be somebody there.
They do that out there a lot, you know that?
And
I don't know,
I
is
think
there
you're
any
right.
law on whether or not door dashing is loading?
well, loading is,
I mean, I wouldn't think of it as loading.
No, but they'll
Sure.
Mhm.
park and leave.
Cause they are the worst.
Well, I mean, I guess my point is, if it's, as long as we're satisfied that a loading zone doesn't include that, then those people can still be ticketed.
Right,
And it could be enforced, I mean, that's
right,
That's more about enforcement.
correct, that's an enforcement issue, not a
okay.
design issue is my point.
Cause the only thing I'm thinking about is, and I mean, I know this impacts our parking, but I'm thinking about, finding a way to get that loading off of that block in general and painting that yellow. Like just clearing, cause
Yeah.
it's awful.
I'm not sure
when
there's
it's-
another
Yeah.
spot that's good for loading.
Other than the middle of Oxmoor. which
Yeah, I
is
mean,
not-
you're gonna end up either in the middle of Oxmoor or
Of
you're,
course, they do that anyway.
Which they do, yes.
and just like they do down here and,
Right.
you know, so, I mean,
Mhm.
I would generally like to maybe, if everybody, I mean, I'm not on the committee, but consider carrying this over and maybe asking for more discussion about how to design it next time and think about these things, if there are, if there is any other option.
I'm not sure that Uber Eats, things like that would not be considered loading.
You think it would not?
I
Think it
I
would
think it
be.
would. That's my concern.
Going in, getting something?
It's temporary, it's not a parking, they're not parking there to
Right.
visit the business, they're there to get that merchandise, and then it's really no different than unloading beer or
Right.
food or whatever.
Mhm.
It's a temporary, it's supposed to be for temporary.
Their neighbors have asked if they could park else, you know, if we could load elsewhere, and Andy and I have talked a little about that. I don't, you know, we hated to totally take that away for loading.
Yeah, what do we have in the back? Really, we just have a yellow curve right there.
Yeah. There's not an obvious spot to say, hey, you should go load and unload here.
You could no park up to that pole and maybe have loading on the backside.
Yeah, what I would suggest is that the committee carry it over and let's get a measure, at the very least, a measurement of the block,
Okay.
so that we know what distances we're talking about.
Okay. And then the,
Get Randy to.
Get
Okay.
Randy to do that.
and then the item just asked to request, you know, this loading zone, so even if we voted for it, it's just a request for us to move forward on getting details that we need to get, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
do we still need to carry over the request?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a timing issue that y'all can decide as to
Okay.
whether or not, in other words, if there's some importance about getting the loading zone in place and then we work out the details later, then the committee can go ahead and send it out. If you're concerned about the details of it and the timing doesn't matter as much, I would say carry it over and let's get a few more details.
Okay, I would like to
Either
carry
way.
it
Well,
over.
one more thing, just real quick. I think we are really concerned about making sure we get it 30 feet off the intersection, or as much as we can. And so if we need to carry over to get that built into it, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
I think
carry-
that's fine.
Carry that over to the next committee
Yeah.
Yep.
meeting on, today's 15th, 28th, 29th. Is that correct? 7/29.
Hang on, I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, that sounds
Or,
right.
I mean, you could have.
No, I thought we were taking that one.
Yeah, the 29th is not a committee meeting, so that's a fifth Monday, so it'll be
Oh.
August 5th.
August 5th, 8/5.
Or you could have a special call meeting next Monday too. But
Well, I think the sooner we get this handled, the better. What do we think we need to decide, just what the businesses want?
Well, I think for, the first thing to decide is, again, if you're encroaching from each corner to make it no parking in a certain area,
Right.
how much is left for a loading zone is I think the first question. And what sort of trucks are coming through there, and does that match up with the loading zone? If it,
18-wheeler can't
They
do
are
that.
Right.
coming there. I feel like they're still gonna have enough room, but we do need to get it.
yeah, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that they won't, I'm just saying, I think that's the first question that needs to be asked, and so we ought to wait and just let Randy go out and measure it
Okay.
and figure out what kind of trucks are coming in there, and then we can move forward with it from there.
Okay, and no matter what we decide, can we get that yellow, make it no parking?
Not if it's a loading zone.
Not if it's loading.
Loading zone is different from no parking. If it's no parking, you
Right.
can't load there either.
Right, but if we,
You yellow,
Yep.
but you ain't parking at all.
okay, when we, decide where this loading will be, if it doesn't go there, can we make this a no parking zone? Is that
That's something that can be considered,
can-
yes,
okay.
but what I'm saying is, I don't know that there's another spot that's going to
Gotcha.
work for
I hear
loading,
you.
so I think you
Yeah.
do that at your own peril. Cause
Okay.
you may hear about, that may create larger problems than the trucks. I'll defer to Melanie because she's
Yeah.
hearing from the neighbors more
Yeah,
than I
she
am.
sees it.
Most of what I hear is not about the trucks loading and unloading, it's about the cars.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
And we may have someone from the neighborhood who wants to speak tonight, I'm not sure.
Sure, I'd be happy to comment. Hey, I'm Brad Hightower. I was here back in April. I live on St. Charles. It's nice to have the graphic up, just makes it easier to see. So, yeah, all this is right. I mean, you know, you'll have people, you shouldn't have to tell them, but they park right here.
Right.
They just
Yep.
find a spot, 3, 4, 5 of them right here, they'll park.
As well.
And so, and as far as the trucks go, you know, yeah, it looks like that. And as far as the delivery trucks go, you've got, when the trucks park really close to the intersection, I think that's the worst possible place. I think it certainly would be better if they could park back this way.
Sure.
It still blocks the street. Something that you might wanna consider is, at least when I see most of them, and I'm not there all day, but most of the time when I see the delivery trucks, it's in the morning. That parking lot on this side, where all the spaces, it's usually mostly empty during the morning. This is usually later in the day. This may be at lunch, or this may be in the evening. It fills up. But in the morning time, it's mostly empty. That's something you could consider as far as asking them to, maybe you could find a spot for them to park during the morning when it's empty. That'd be better than this, because in the morning, particularly during the school year, you got a lot of traffic that's coming up and down the street. You got, you know, kids walking. My particular interest in this, some of you may know this, but my son, got hit by a car, coming across Oxmoor, not,
On the other side.
this, right, this area, yeah, sorry, this one here.
Yeah.
That would work.
So, you know, I don't know if this would make a huge difference, but the person that hit him was coming down St. Charles towards Oxmoor. If you've got a big delivery truck in the left-hand lane, you can't see very well, and you want to take a left, it certainly obscures your view. And it's better now than it was, because this space here has been marked off and taken away, so there's a little bit better view than you had before. But if you got a big truck right there, it's difficult to see, I think, if you're coming through that intersection. And if you're coming in from this way and you wanna take a right on St. Charles, there's a big truck there, that's certainly hard to see. You got traffic coming the other way at the same time.
Before Brian moves the angle, Mr. Kendrick,
Yes.
when you're referencing possibly curbing, you know, the no parking, were you referencing basically from this angle of the intersection to that lamp post on the right?
The only way I know to define is between an intersection of streets.
Okay, between the intersection of streets, and were you referencing down to the lamp post approximately?
If
30
you do
feet.
that, you'd say, no parking, or whatever restriction you wanna put, 30 feet north of the intersection of.
So it'd be 30 feet there, okay, great.
or
And how
whatever
close we
distance
get to
you
the
want.
lamp is what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, alright, thank you. I just wanted to, I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt, I wanted to, that was a perfect vantage point to ask that question, so thank you.
And the Uber and DoorDash, that's true, you see that a lot as well. I live here, but I work downtown, and I don't know if anyone else saw this, but the Chick-fil-A downtown that's not far from where I work at, they had a similar problem. They had cars like that lined up down the street blocking traffic because they were all waiting to get their deliveries. Chick-fil-A figured it out. They just put somebody outside with a table, and they're nice. They open the door for you if you're coming to eat at the restaurant. If you've got an order that you're taking away with you, they hand it to you right then and there, and they move the cars along. And they've got it striped where, you know, so it's for, I think they've got it zoned for pickups for that purpose now. So they kind of, seems like they worked with the city to figure that out. I'm not sure that's feasible here or not, but again, something the businesses might want to consider. I'm not an owner of one of them, but it seems like that would be on the table for helping with that problem. It might help them as well. So I appreciate your time. If anybody has a question about my experience with this, happy to talk to you now or happy to talk to you afterwards. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
One more thing, I was thinking about, just while we're, you know, if we carry it over. So, if we consider something like the off, you know, the parking lot, you know, in the morning, you know, have it labeled where it's a zoning, it's a loading zone from a certain time. Well, trucks are still gonna come when it's not during that time and allow them, like, just separate times to load maybe, so that they're not both loading zones at, at the peak hours or whatever, and, and plus, on the other side, you know, folks are gonna park there once it says it's available for public parking, and, you know, trucks not gonna be able to get in there and break that rule, in
so
the parking lot.
everything has unintended consequences. If you,
Mhm.
the shorter you make the windows, the more trucks are gonna show up, cause that's the only time they can show up. And so you may end up with a lot of trucks at once if you do that, which may create more hazard than, especially, you know, depending on what time of morning we're talking about. And then you've got, can the deliveries be made then? Because the businesses can control it to at least some extent, but there are some things that they can't control
Right.
in terms of when their deliveries are made,
Okay.
is my experience. I haven't talked to these particular businesses about it, but certainly we've had this issue in other parts of the city, and that has been one of the issues, is the delivery trucks that are making deliveries all over the Birmingham metropolitan area and getting there at an exact
Yeah.
window becomes a little hard.
Got it.
So, you know, I think that that's something that is easiest to work through for the business owners to try to work through as to what times, and maybe we can find windows that work. But again, if you make it one window and the window's not, if the window's big enough, no big deal, the trucks show up when they show up, right? But if you make it, they can only show up within a certain window, you're gonna end up with a lot of trucks at
Yeah.
once.
Well, and I don't know if this makes sense, but what I was basically saying is, like, you know, in the mornings where it's easy for them to pull over and not have a car in the parking lot, to make that time, you know, when it's known to be peak times for delivery in the parking lot, but also allow them the zoning on the right, you know, on the street.
On the street.
Yeah.
Sure.
But just make them different times so that they're not bogging up,
Yeah, again, I think, I'm not saying that's a bad idea.
Right,
What I'm saying
right,
is
right.
I think that's a discussion we need to have with all of the business owners
Okay.
over there, because there are
Okay.
a lot of restaurants that are probably getting deliveries from different
Okay.
people. Would be
That's
my guess.
that building's 110 feet deep, so that would add maybe 120, 125 feet of length along there.
So we've probably got enough, but let's get Randy to measure it. And also, I think we can talk to the businesses about
Okay.
what kind of trucks are showing up. I mean, I know some of them that are showing up that I don't think would be a problem, but I don't claim to know every truck that's showing up.
Okay. So, would it be better to call a special session on Monday, or to carry it over to the
I
fourth?
would say let's just carry it over till unless, like I said, unless there's some time consideration that I don't know about, I would say just carry it over till the next committee meeting, and that would give us time to handle finance, which is going to have to be on Monday because of one of the items.
Okay, so we will carry that one over to August 5th. And if there's nothing else,
We're adjourned.
we're adjourned.